Because everything in the US right now is a horror show, and with the resurgence of classic literature in the zeitgeist, let's read the classics through a horror lens. Jane Eyre. There are a multitude of horrors here, but there is one that's the most glaring, and Bertha Mason, Rochester's wife, is only the first part of it. This one is actually a bit circular because Bertha is in fact mentioned as an example in Jeffrey Jerome Cohen's Seven Monster Theses, Thesis 4, the monster dwells at the gate of difference. Quote, the monster is difference made flesh, come to dwell among us. In its function as dialectical other or third term supplement, the monster is an incorporation of the outside, the beyond. Any kind of alterity can be inscribed across, constructed through the monstrous body. But for the most part, monstrous difference tends to be cultural, political, racial, economic, sexual. End quote. The monster appears at the exact point where a culture's categories are threatened: race, gender, class, sexuality. So Bertha is described as monstrous because she crosses every boundary of the Victorian colonial order. She's Creole, female, and legally married, but incredibly inconvenient. And when Jane finally sees her for the first time, the dehumanizing, othering language is stark. Quote, what it was, whether beast or human being, one could not at first sight tell. It groveled seemingly on all fours, it snatched and growled like some strange wild animal, but it was covered with clothing, and a quantity of dark grizzled hair, wild as a mane, hid its head and face. End quote. And then horror number 2 is this systematic dismantling of this woman's trust in her own perception. And that would be Jane. Everyone knows about Bertha, and no one says a word and just gaslights Jane into thinking Grace Poole is behind everything. But then what's even worse is that both women, Bertha and Jane, are victims of the same misogyny, the same consequence of empire that makes women question their own reality and then expects that same woman to marry the imprisoner. So, what does the gaslit woman look like when she's not in a Victorian novel? When she's reading a press briefing or a statement from a government agency that just removed the word equity from its website? We're back to Thesis 4, the monster dwells at the gate of difference. Why are these words feared so absolutely that they've become disqualifying factors for funding? Here's some of those words: diversity, equity, inclusion, underserved, marginalized, underrepresented, intersectional, systemic, racial bias, injustice, gender identity, sexual orientation, transgender, queer, LGBTQ+, non-binary, gender-affirming care, abortion, women, disability, elderly, trauma, health, disparity, reproductive health.